Today's episode, we're going to break down the Bulls' heartbreaking loss
I heard you.
to the Atlanta Hawks in overtime. We're going to get into all that plus more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily podcast on the Chicago Bulls, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls. Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's Pat, the designer, host, and creator of the Windy City Breeze. I'm Haize, host and creator of Chicago Bulls and Chicago Bears Central. Pat, the Bears. I keep talking about the Bears. I guess it's Sunday. I miss them. Not even gonna lie to you. But the Bulls lose the game, push the game into overtime. Feel like they're losing the game again, win the game, but then ultimately lose the game. This was an emotional roller coaster of a game, brother. How'd you feel about it, man?
I'm not as mad at a lot of things that I thought I would be mad at as I went back and watched it while watching your post-game show, watching the Breeze post-game show, all that stuff. And here's the reason why. I know people are going to say that it is excuses. It's not, you can't give this team any flack. But if we got blew out by 20 tonight, we'd say, oh, they were tired because it was the second of a back-to-back. There were points in this game where this team looked exhausted. Second quarter for sure, even though the second quarter has been our problem spot most of the season. I think at moments in that overtime, they looked tired. I think in the fourth quarter, there were moments they looked tired. And they were just – and it was the moments where they weren't moving the ball as efficiently. They weren't going through their offense as efficiently. I know there's a lot of people that are going to come on here and they're going to say Billy Donovan is the worst coach in the NBA. He's an idiot. He shouldn't be on the court. But that offensive scheme that was working for us most of the night is Billy Donovan's scheme, and it looked pretty good when they moved the ball around there. Now they have to cut down on the turnovers 110%. I think if anything I take away from this game, it's again, you're turning the ball over at too high a rate on plays that shouldn't be turnovers. It's not even like it. I think we see turnover and we're instantly like, oh, he threw it to the other team. No, our turnovers are like Zach LaVine driving to the bucket, dribbles it off his knee, and it goes out of bounds. Yeah. Or DeMar DeRozan trying to catch a pass and he just doesn't have hands anymore and it goes out of bounds. Like we're doing stupid turnovers. And so you got to cut those turnovers down. They're taking advantage of too many of those turnovers. Even coming down to that last play, I thought that I was going to absolutely hate everything about that last play. But at the end of the day, when you go look at AJ Griffin, a rookie, who interesting that they're going to put him in that situation, he matches up with DJJ very well. Both guys 6'6", both guys good length, both guys, right? Like there's a bunch of things that you can look at and you can say, I can see why DJJ's put in that position. I would have rather probably had Andre Drummond down there just for the actual size of it.
Or Patrick Williams, who didn't get in any in overtime as well.
I can deal with that as well, right? Because that's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
But DJJ had played well for you to that point, right? He played well defensively. He played well on the hustle plays. He was playing good basketball to that point. So while I will say this loss sucks and it's a heartbreaking loss, I can also be realistic about it and say it's not the end of the world, and we 110% played better than I thought we would have off of a second of a back-to-back. It's probably the best we've played off a second of a back-to-back this season.
Wasn't the Milwaukee Bucks game a second of a baback-to-back?
Well, that was the beginning of a back-to-back, wasn't it?
Oh, okay. Right, fair enough.
Because we went to OKC the next night.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew it was a back-to-back involved in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Here's what I'll say to me on this one is that there were some coaching mistakes. You say the offensive scheme worked it didn't work most of the night. Like from about 3 to 4 minutes left in the first quarter to about halfway through the third quarter, the Bulls were just flat. right or wrong, like I said, not to make an excuse about the being on a back-to-back or whatnot, but the Bulls are just flat. Whatever you want to diagnose it, that's what they were. They were flat. The amount of turnovers, 7 of those 18 turnovers coming from Zach LaVine alone. And like you said, a lot of those just bouncing off his leg. Or it was a couple of the players tipped it hit Zach LaVine again, then went out of bounds as well. So a lot of those things as well on that one that the Bulls did. It's just the execution was not there. And I think me and you talked about it. The turnovers are almost a growing pain of this team just passing the ball more.
Yeah.
And so, you want them to pass the ball more. You want them to move it around a little bit more. And unfortunately, that's just coming with turnovers right now. Hopefully they learn to execute better to where turnovers aren't a part of them just passing the ball around more. But they still need to get to that place and get to that point. Just and looking at some of the things down the stretch, again, not blaming it completely on Zach, which I know some Bulls fans who don't necessarily break basketball down will do. But that shot, those 2 3-pointers early in the shot clock in overtime on the second and third possession of overtime, that's just bad. That's bad basketball IQ from Zach LaVine.
It's hard, right? Because, and I don't disagree with you.
Mm-hmm.
Both were open looks. I think there were shots we just didn't need, right? Yeah. And that's the part that irritates me a little bit more with them. But again, those are the same shots that Zach LaVine knocks down when he gets 26 points the other night. You know what I mean? Like, those are the same shots Zach LaVine knocks down when he puts up 41. Sometimes, and I'm going to be honest with you, like, we're going to put a lot of the blame on the Bulls in this one. Yeah. Dog, sometimes you're going up against a team that is ridiculously hot. Kevin Huerter, every shot he hit tonight was a absolutely tough, contested, change your shot type of shot. Kevin Huerter was just hot. Bro, he hit a fall away, fading out of bounds, over the backboard shot over the extended hand of DJ
that hit that
Jet.
Shot.
Huh?
That was Bogdanovich.
Who'd I say?
Bogdanovich that hit the shot. You said Hunter.
My bad. I'm talking about Bogdanovich. I said Huerter, by the way, too. He doesn't play for the team anymore.
So what you're saying is that
you
don't do color swaps too good.
I struggle with it. You know what I mean? Was it Matt Thomas? Wasn't that Matt Thomas out there? Wasn't that Ryan Arcidiacono? That's like when Dick Stockton used to call the Bears and every black dude with dreads was Cordero Patterson for like a year and a half, bro. Every black dude with Cordero Patterson on the defensive end there. What? Anyway, but no, right? Like sometimes, like Kevin Huerter don't play for the Hawks, cuz sometimes, right? Like teams just get ridiculously hot on you, and Bogey just was ridiculously hot. The Bulls rotated defensively well for most of the night. Outside of the second quarter, again, was horrible. But there's a lot of things that I can look at outside of the emotion. I'm still pissed off we lost. We should have won the game. I'm not saying we shouldn't have. You should have won the game. But there's a lot in this game that I look at and I say a lot of it is on Atlanta making great, tough shots. And a portion of it is on some questionable decision making on that last play. I'm gonna be real. I don't understand not going Drummond there. That's the one part I don't get. I don't understand not going Drummond there. Yeah. I think if you go Drummond there, not to say you win it, but like I feel like he hits a shot over a dude that I'm like, all right, tough shot. Which still, by the way, AJ Griffin hit a ridiculously tough shot to win the game for you. Turn around, fade away over the outstretched hands of DJJ. That last shot was the story of the entire night.
It's a lot of frustrating things in this game. But like you said, bro, like just being honest and just breaking down basketball, right? There's some of it that you just it's some things that you can't coach against, right? And Bogdanovich getting as hot as he was, like there were several. I'd say there's probably 5 to 6 possessions where the defense on Bogdanovich was perfect. Yeah. And he still hit the shot.
I would say more than that. I don't think he had how many open. He had a couple of open looks in the fourth. Yeah. But for the most of that game, he didn't have open looks. He wasn't even creating.
No, he had a couple of open threes in that one, bro. In the third quarter specifically, he had a couple of open threes. When they went to when Derrick Jones Jr. first got in the game, he was poking the ball out a lot. But then there was a couple of possessions in a row where Derrick Jones Jr. he was trying to get on the roll man, and Bogdanovich was just wide open. So there were a couple of times of that.
Even that, right? Like the contested ones are falling, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's the thing, right? Like, we look at the result and we're more upset about the result, right? Because he knocks down the shot. But the thing that I'm looking at, and maybe I'm looking at it from the glass half full aspect of it, is most of the night Bogdanovich had to shoot over a tough outstretched hand.
Yeah.
I can live with that. If I watch a game an entire night and I like, that's a tough shot. That's a tough shot. That's a tough. I literally said that's a tough shot probably 100 times a night. I like it. Like, they literally were just not outside of pick and rolls with Capella. Everything was a tough shot. And I thought the Bulls, right? Like, I thought the Bulls defended the paint well. Every time Trey tried to throw that oop down there, it wasn't getting down there. Booch was knocking the ball away. Andre Drummond had 5 steals. And like, I thought the Bulls did a lot of really good things in this game. The result is just such a punch in the gut that I think Bulls fans are going to go straight to the emotion of it.
I think the lack of energy was evident, and we'll talk about that coming up next. The lack of energy and what missing Ayo Dosunmu in the second quarter really did for allowing Trae Young to get off. We definitely got to talk about that. But first, before we do that, we got to talk to you guys about Rocket Money. Are you wasting money on subscriptions? 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Maybe for you, it's an unused Amazon Prime account or a Hulu account that never gets streamed. There's a great app I use that helps me track all my expenses, and because of it, I no longer waste money on subscriptions I don't use. You might have heard of it. It's called Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill. The app shows you all your subscriptions in one place and cancels what you don't want for you. Rocket Money can even find subscriptions you don't know you were paying for. You may even find out you've been double charged for a subscription. To cancel a subscription, all you have to do is press cancel, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Cancel unnecessary subscriptions with Rocket Money today. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Seriously, it could save you hundreds per year. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon.
I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Bulls your first listen every day. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports. Go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insight only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts.
All right, Pat. So Ayo Dosunmu in that first half, it wasn't just him because there was some people guarding Trae Young, but held Trae Young of 0 for 7, I believe, in the first half of the game. Yep. Now, Trae Young still does not shoot the best percentage overall in this game. So the Bulls did a pretty good defensive job on him. But after, keeping that score low, he does end up in the second half of this game hitting 5 shots, ended up with 19 points. How different do you think this game looks if Ayo Dosunmu does not go down with injury? And I can't wait to see how bad that injury is for Ayo Dosunmu, how long he's going to be out.
Here's the tough part, right? Like, what are we writing that up as? Because we all saw what it hit.
Yeah. Because they said it was, they keep saying it's an abdomen injury. Let's be clear here. The man was hitting the family jewels.
Hey,
that was
listen, if that's an abdomen injury, shout out to Ayo Dosunmu because he's blessed out here, brother. That's a little lower than the abdomen, in my opinion.
Can you make that joke on this platform?
I don't know. But shout out to Ayo, brother. Hey, you're doing great things in life. Keep going, bro. I think Ayo affects the game differently in more so the aspect of Trae Young passing the ball, right? Like, I think Trae Young, one thing we know, 2 things for certain. Trae Young wants to prove that he's better than Ayo. Remember, like, that last game, Ayo really clamped him up for most of the game. Second half, all of a sudden he's throwing out that he can't guard me. He can't guard me. Well, he's done it for 3.5 games against you, right? So he wants to prove it. So I think, one, it changes the mentality of Trae Young, trying to actually attack Ayo, trying to get to the bucket, trying to be ice Trae and get busy with it. But I don't think Kobe White did a bad job on Trae Young tonight, right? Like, I thought he played him pretty well defensively. I thought Kobe actually came up with some huge defensive plays to help the Chicago Bulls here. But at the end of the day, right, like, to me, what it changes is the passing. Ayo's length, right? Like, Kobe White, he's got the short arm, so he's not going to be able to get the hand up in the passing lane and knock the ball away. So for me, Ayo's length is what's going on? To me, Ayo's length Ayo's length is a great fantasy football name after what we just talked about. But I feel like that's a great way, right, to negate him from getting a lot of those open passes to the corner that we saw a lot, right? A lot of those passes down low to Capella, a lot of those passes out to Bogey, where he's able to create action off of that. I thought that that's more of a situation where he impacts it. Trae Young, right, like, He's going to be that guy that we talk about that goes down in history as one of the greatest clutch shot makers. Maybe not one of the greatest shooters, but one of the greatest clutch shot makers. It's just what he does, though. I mean, he had two clutch shots in this game alone. Sometimes, right, like I said, sometimes they hide.
I mean, yeah, I agree with everything you said there. I would have loved to see Io be able to stay in this game for the full game and just what that would have looked like had he been able to stay in there. But at the end of the day, woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? You can only bet on that so much. And Kobe didn't do, like you said, didn't do a terrible job. Go ahead.
I don't think it's that serious, right? Because he was gonna try and come back in, and then they sent him back to the locker room.
Yeah, I think that at the end of the day, they looked at it this way: why risk it when you have 3 days off? You don't, well, not 3. You have 2 days off. You play again on Wednesday. They probably just wanted to give him the time. So
yeah, I'm with it, man. I'm with it. I mean, listen, what do you think? Is Io's impact the reason we lost this game?
I won't say the reason. It definitely was one of the reasons. You can measure out how big you think it was a part of the reason, depending on the impact that you think he has. Io not only disrupts Trae Young from scoring, but I think I think you touched on it a little bit. He also disrupts Trae Young's ability to facilitate. And what we did see is Trae Young, even though his shot was falling, facilitate at times. I think Io DeSumo keeps that from happening as well. And if that was the case, I think we're looking at a different game for sure.
I agree. I think on that last play, it makes a lot more of a difference as well, right? Like, I mean, you think about how many people were there, and Javonte Green had a horrible game. He got in and had basically made no impact. He made negative impact, if anything. And I look at this situation that the Bulls were in here tonight, and of course it sucks, right, that we lose this game. But I look at this as is there a change that could have been made that wins us this game? I can't guarantee you Drummond wins us this game if he's in on that last play, right? Because AJ Griffin hit a ridiculously tough shot over the outstretched hands of DJJ. I think that maybe, right, like maybe if Zach LaVine doesn't take those threes, we get a better look at the bucket. But even that, right, like we can't guarantee he makes a bucket. Like I can't, and I got to go back and like actually sit down and rewatch the game. I'll say one thing: DJJ making free throws at the end of the game would definitely help.
That if he would have made that second free throw, well, it's easy to say that because they still would have had. Wasn't it still like 0.4 seconds left? They could have ran another backdoor cut.
I mean, we lost it off of 0.1.
Yeah, so,
you know what I mean? Like literally, it's like that.
No,
we
went into overtime on a 0.1. They had 0.5 left when he hit that overtime. We had 0.1 when DeMar was fouled.
No, what I'm saying is that like the shot got off of his fingers with a 0.1. You know what I mean? But like, there's no guarantees to me that on anything that changing anything, making any different adjustment here wins us this game. Sometimes the other team comes out to play. And so I think, right, even having Io in this game, I think it makes it a little bit easier. But Trae Young's impact was more on the passing side, and there was still a lot of guys missing shots on their side. There was one guy that was really killing it, which was Bogey. But I don't know, man. I don't know.
It's one of those games that honestly you could have. There's like it woulda, coulda, shoulda, ifs would get you. Like you can come up with 25 of them different ones in this. Yeah, for sure. So we'll see what happens with this. Here's what I want to ask you. I want to throw it to you before that we go to break. There was a severe lack of energy for stretches of this game. Should the Rook of Dalen Terry had got in there when the Bulls needed a little injection of energy? Would you have put the Rook in there?
No, I'd have put P. Will in there, maybe more. I mean, I would like to see him get more looks in these situations, but you don't want to put the Rook in crunch times of games. In these situations,
that's why I say there's a time when we didn't have energy. I'm not the fourth quarter we had energy. I'm talking about more into the second half, into the third quarter. I mean, into the first half, into the third quarter. We needed some energy at that point. Would you have given the Rook 5-8 minutes to take a look to see if he brings that in?
Probably there, especially because when I want to go back and look, and I really want to go through it. You need an answer on that. I think the reason that we always get killed in the second quarters, especially like later on, is because that's usually where we go to our full bench lineup. Our full bench lineup is more of a defensive lineup. Like there's not really a scorer on there. You got Goran Dragic, and his shot wasn't falling tonight. So if Goran Dragic's shot's not falling, you don't have that much offense off of your bench.
Yeah.
So I think I would put the Rook in there in a situation like that where you want to try and get an injection off of your bench offensively. Kobe White, I thought he played okay tonight, right? But you couldn't count on him for a bucket tonight. And there's just moments like that. Sometimes there's up, sometimes they're down. And I think in those second quarters, right, that will be the time I want to see him the most, because it's how the Bulls are built. There's a stark difference from our starting lineup to our bench unit offensively, and especially with no Caruso, especially with Ayo Dosunmu going out, right? Like that just got a lot thinner. And Ayo went out at the end of the first, or beginning of the second.
I know it was before the halftime.
Definitely before half.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would have thrown him in that situation because again, right, like we got outscored 36-23. Like at the end of the day, right? Yes, it comes down to DJJ missing a free throw. Yes, it comes down to DeMar DeRozan, or I'm sorry, to DJJ. DJJ had a tough night. To DJJ getting that shot knocked down over him, right? Yes, those are the things that it ends up on. Maybe Billy throws Drummond out there. It looks a little different. But at the end of the day, you're not in this situation if in the second quarter you don't get outscored 36-23.
Good point.
Or whatever it was. You know what I mean? Like, you're not in this situation. You're not even anywhere remotely near this situation if you don't get outscored that bad in that second quarter. I think the lack of energy to me is more about playing a game last night and then flying into Atlanta from Chicago. But I would have liked to see that a little bit more. I want to see that shake up in the second quarter anyway, because we've talked about that all season. That's not good.
That's fair. All right.
Hey, man, before we get into this final topic, we got to tell you guys about LinkedIn. These days, every new hire can feel like a potential high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates. That's why you got to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you got to do, you just go over to LinkedIn Jobs, you add your job, and you turn on the hashtag purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skill and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. Hey, it's why small business rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. All you got to do, LinkedIn Jobs, they're here to help you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply.
All right, Pat. So the Bulls have 2 games at home coming up against the New York Knicks. Do you think things get better for the Chicago Bulls if they're able to win both these games? They at that point would be 2 games under 500 with games remaining against Minnesota, Miami, Atlanta, and New York again, all before Christmas. How important is it that the Bulls can go back home, this first game also being on ESPN, and get a victory against the New York Knicks?
I think it's big, and this is an opportunity for you to start to get your season back right. I think here's the thing for me, right? I'm the person that maybe I'm the glass half full guy, right? Like, but I'm the person that's looking at this situation and saying, if the Bulls get to All-Star break 500, right? Like, I feel okay because of how the NBA is this year. Like, I'm also thinking that looking at last year's situation, there were a lot of teams that went into the All-Star break a little bit above 500, and they were playing really good basketball by the end of the season. But what I do want to see is you start to actually take advantage of that. The more we talk about this, the closer these games are. You know what I mean? Like, it can't keep being it's early in the season. It's not early in the season anymore. It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's early in the season, but it's early in the season to a point where you should be starting to play the way your team has. And I'm going to be honest with you. The Chicago Bulls are doing that. They really are, right? Like, outside of this game, this is a heartbreaking loss again. But if we remove the emotion from it, we've been proud of how the Bulls have played over the last 5-6 games, minus the Denver game, or not Denver, the Phoenix game, right? Like, outside of that though, right? Like, I've looked at this team and I'm like, okay, they're moving the ball more. They're playing better defensively. They're jumping in the passing lanes. And you know what? Even in a loss, I can say the Bulls did those things tonight. I thought there were moments where they slacked off. for sure. You're coming off a second of a back-to-back. But I still see those things being implemented, right? And I think legit Billy Donovan finally had to have a come to Jesus moment with the boys and say, hey, listen, how y'all want to run offenses ain't working. We have to move the ball. I know it's going to lead to turnovers in the beginning, but we have to start moving this ball better. And I like how the Bulls offense looks. You got to knock down shots, but I like how the Bulls offense has looked over the last 4 or 5 games.
I didn't like the way it looked this game. I could just be clear with that. I didn't. I think that they went back to – they moved the ball around. I think when they started working themselves out of the deficit they did get in, the offense did look good that stretch. I'll give you that. But there are large parts in this stretch where I'm just looking at this team and I'm just – and they were lethargic at times. And it's probably that more than anything. If I go back and watch the game outside of the emotion, it's probably just the lack of energy. But there are some things in this game where I'm just looking at this team and I'm just like, hey, that was a wasted offensive possession. That was a bad possession. But at the end of the day, it's this, right? All those things, all the critiques that I've thrown, the Bulls were in position and almost very much so did win this game. So that's and there's something to be said for the Bulls fan. But they were missing Collins. They were missing DeJounte Murray. The Bulls should have easily won this game, and I understand the conversation around that. I do. I truly do. But in watching this game, outside of taking it on paper, watching the story that developed over the course of this game, the Bulls, for a second, won this game. It took a hell of a shot for the Bulls. For the Bulls. Hey, listen.
For a second, we won.
Everybody in that arena thought the Bulls won that game after DeMar hit those 3 free throws.
Yeah.
You can look at the body language of the players. Bogdanovich, literally, he after being what really got the team back into position, that he was beat up himself. That's probably why they didn't go to him on that last play. But everybody's body language said, hey, man, listen, the Bulls just beat us. They got lucky and got an amazing shot. And some of that wasn't luck. Some of that was design, too. I don't want to give it that. But overall, the way that the Bulls have played the last 4 games or so, it's left a lot of positive feelings. You're not going to win. Let's keep in mind, even if the Bulls play a great game 10 days in a row, you probably still are only going to win 7 to 8 of those games on any given stretch.
So let me, and this is a question to the chat. So drop a comment down below. This is a question to the chat that's in here with us right now live. Question to you. If we make this shot, what's the vibe? I'm sorry. If he doesn't make that shot, what's the vibe? That's how I'm thinking about it. That's how I'm thinking about it, right? Like I'm analyzing this game off of, if we have a good defensive possession there, we're not in here talking about, oh, Billy Donovan didn't coach this game well. Billy Donovan didn't do this. We're still having a second quarter conversation. But outside of that, I think we're looking at this game pretty positively. Now he hits the shot. We got a gut punch. We're pissed. I get that. But think about it in the aspect of how the team played the entire game. I don't think that we're in here bashing anybody. Maybe
bashing is different.
Maybe bashing Zach LaVine for a couple of them 3-point shots. Even in a win, I would have came in and been like, we didn't need those, but it worked out. I just feel like there's gonna be a lot of Billy can't coach. DJJ. I saw trade DJJ. I was like, come on, dog. He shouldn't have been in that position, dog. Come on. I just think of it in that aspect. You know what I mean? I feel like there was a lot of good tonight, and that made a layup shouldn't just clean the whiteboard of it.
Well, I don't even though the Bulls won this, I personally am still pointing out quite a few things that the Bulls did bad in this game. Like you said, the feeling around the game is a little bit different, but that doesn't erase the things that the Bulls didn't execute well. That doesn't erase the possessions that Billy Donovan seemed like he just didn't draw up good plays to me. But I do think that generally you do have a different feel around the game if they do end up walking away and winning this one. And I still think overall there are more positive things to say than bad in this game. The Bulls, listen, they were on the second half of back-to-back. You're going to lose some games like that. Isn't it an excuse? No. Should they still have won this game? Absolutely. But this is the NBA. For anybody who actually watches the NBA heavily, you know this isn't a loss like this isn't exclusive to the Bulls on the second day of a back-to-back. Even though some Bulls fans will act like, oh, this only happens to the Bulls. Blow it up. Get rid of Billy Donovan. Trade Derrick Jones Jr.
Trade Zach LaVine.
Like, you get all those type of things.
I will say. Only the Bulls could get beat off of a one-legged floater and then a fall away mid-range, falling out of bounds, and then a turnaround fadeaway. Like, only the Bulls could lose that way.
Yeah. Crazy,
like, that's
bro.
3 plays in a row that you just look at and you're just like, bro, we really just lost because of that. Like, we lost because of some dude falling out of bounds, essentially almost being fouled by DJJ, making a bucket. Like, I don't know.
Crazy.
I don't come out of this game with, I don't feel like coming out of this game like I did after we had lost to whoever Zach, New Orleans, was it? I think that's where Zach got benched, where he was 1 for 14 that night. I don't come out of this game feeling like that.
That's fair.
I just feel like this is an NBA loss. These are going to happen.
Well, yeah, I feel it. But all right, Pat, unless you got anything left, man, that is tonight, brother. That's it for tonight, I should say.
What? Brandon said, hit Pat with the baby petty
The
roast
baby
of
petty voice.
That's my annoying Bulls fans' voice.
It's trade Zach LaVine. Get DJJ out of here. They extended Billy Donovan. Oh my God, I'm so upset.
I will say this as well. It's probably how Ayo DeSumo was talking after he got that foul. Anyway,
100%, bro.
follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. Follow me on everything at Pat the Designer. Appreciate y'all for showing love. Ayo, one shout out to you, but get well soon, brother. We've all.
Put me in, coach. I'm okay. I swear I'm okay.
that was Ayo after
It was
the
Ayo
game.
at the end of it. Trying to
But
come
you guys
back
can
in.
follow me at CEO Haize. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Locked On Bulls and making us your first listen every day. Now for your second listen, go and check out on Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. For Pat the Designer, I'm Haize. This is Locked On Bulls, and we out. Peace, y'all.
Peace, y'all. Man.